So the two front runners for running mate in the MPP, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, who's the Energy Minister, and Dr. Yao Adutwum, who's the Education Minister. These two names have kind of risen to the top, right? And if this is the choice that the current Vice President and flag bearer of the NPP is faced with, which one will suit him better? We'll do some very quick analysis of the strengths and weaknesses of each of these two, and then we'll hear from you as well, the callers, on which one seems to be the better option. But I'll tell you right now, with 548 votes in, Dr. Yao Osei Adutwum is leading with 62%, and Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh has 38%. So 62% of you believe that Dr. Adutwum will be the better running mate for Dr. Bawumia, and 38% of you believe that it will be Dr. Opoku Prempeh. Let's do some, if you like, pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
Shall we do the pros of both and then the cons of both?
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Let's start with Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh.
Okay.
He appears to have a lot more political experience compared to Dr. Osei Adutwum. Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh also appears to have support from a strong background within the MPP and current leadership at the party's office. That's without doubt. Napo has also established himself among a certain grouping that they will be willing to go all out for him. And he has made sure that he has established a very strong hold of the Ashanti region, including some of the people that are strongly backing him have actually been people he basically made members of parliament anyway in other areas. So politically, he seems to be a bigger, stronger force within the New Patriotic Party. In fact, some believe that his name rising to the top is just because of these kind of arrangements that he has been working towards for a period of time and has been building upon it. If you also look at which of the electoral fortunes, you remember in the run-up to the MPP's primaries, presidential primaries, Napo had the highest number of votes for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in the entire Ashanti region. And we look to Ashanti region because the numbers ought to tell you a story. It wasn't as if it's the support you are pulling from there. And it is Napo's people that are the biggest supporters of an Asante must necessarily be your running mate. For the same reason that he would be, hopefully, eventually, leading up the scale. When it comes to also other governance experience, Napo has been to 3 ministries in substantive ministerial positions, from education, where Adutwum was his deputy, and also now to energy. And we know that free SHS started with Napo implemented it. We know also that until the last year or two's difficulties, Napo as energy minister basically held on to the fort strongly. One of the biggest signs of an economic crisis is an energy crisis. And so many people were impressed with the fact that we had a serious economic crisis on our hand, and all of the difficulties we had were still our power at the time. And I'm saying we're still hard. I'm using hard. Yeah, because we know of the most recent difficulties that we've had in the energy sector too. So when it comes to strengths, these are largely the one. And Napo appears to be the preferred candidate of the hawks in the MPP. Every party has hawks and doves. So the hawks are the hot-headed people, the people who believe in brute force, the people who believe in a bit of the rough politics. And they predominantly will prefer Matthew Opoku Prempeh as the and there's also this argument that if you have a soft person as presidential candidate, it should balance that scale with somebody who's a bit hotter in the very person of the running mate. And it appears that Matthew Opoku Prempeh fits that particular criteria for determining who gets into that. So if you ask me, those are the ones for Matthew Opoku Prempeh.
I'll add one more.
Yes.
I think Dr. Opoku Prempeh has a certain support from Menchia, because he's a member of that family. Right?
Real or perceived?
Indeed. Well, there is a perceived support.
Okay.
I think that is a correct way of saying it. It's perceived support from Menchia. And that means a lot to anybody who wants to cement the support of the Asante region. The idea is that, I mean, the Asantes are so behind their king that if they perceive someone to be the choice of their king, then that person becomes their choice too. So there's a certain strength in that.
I do not want to distinguish Amahine from Prempeh in this one, but you proceed.
Okay.
Yes.
Dr. Adutwum.
Yes, Dr. Adutwum, see, is a fine gentleman in and out. He's the kind of person that even if he disagrees with you, his ultimate trump card is reason. So, one side, Dr. Adutwum appears to be the politician with a vision. So, if you have 5 minutes with Adutwum, he's talking STEM, he's talking progressive things about education, and whichever sector he finds himself. Yes. So, many see him as one of those forward-looking politicians you want in our politics. Sometimes you even doubt whether or not he's a true politician by his approach and some of the things he does in office. Of course, I mean, he was deputy to Napo, and he's not substantive. There are a few people in our politics who admit that there's something wrong with the sector they are leading, and that I'm trying to fix it. I'm trying to do this and that to fix it. He does that easily. He does not have any difficulties at all admitting that this sector there's a problem. And Dr. Adutwum appeals to a certain educated middle class who are fed up with typical politicians, the one I just described previously, who believe that technocrats are also qualified to be politicians. Again, Adutwum comes with a certain track record in history where he has built schools, where he is building schools in even his hometown. He appears to be that kind of a person who would not put politics first and would necessarily represent the interest of the masses. Appears to be is the word I used in there. On the other side, okay, still on Adutwum's positives, Adutwum doesn't have as many scandals on his hands, let's be fair. Adutwum also, and many people who have interacted with him will say, doesn't appear arrogant. Not at all. Yes.
Yeah.
His outlook, his engagements, I am yet to hear anybody make that representation of Dr. Adutwum. He doesn't appear arrogant at all.
Yeah.
He appears to be one who is down to earth and engages more than being dismissive. And Adutwum is also not having a record of terrible speaking. So, if you have seen speeches, right, you are less likely to have a problem with Adutwum's speech when he's done that over a period of time. You are less likely to have him insult people in his speech, innuendos, casting those aspersions at people, and all of that. You are less likely to have him do so. So, as I described it first, he appears to be a fine gentleman who is not molded in the usual political partisan person mode. He appears to be visionary, because there are things that Adutwum talks about in the education sector that you can only attribute those things to his thinking. It doesn't appear this is a party that sat in the corner to make a decision on that. That is how revolutionary and evolutionary he appears to be thinking in these areas. So he is the kind of guy that many people, when they want to talk about a fine person to be vice president with a revolutionary can, a match for Dr. Bawumia when it comes to vision, or a competent person to match a debate, let's say on education, with Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, many will pick Dr. Osei Adutwum on those positives.
Yeah. I'll add one positive. This party in power has a stink around them right now. Scandal after scandal after scandal. People are tired. The economy is hard. Look, for several reasons, there is a lot of disquiet and displeasure around this party. Dr. Adutwum doesn't seem to have that stink around him, personally. Now, that's an asset for a flag bearer who is also trying to dissociate himself from that stink.
That's true.
To have a running mate who people see as separate, by and large, from the rest of the mess is an asset. That's another asset for him. Let's do the cons very quickly before we take some calls, okay? And let's start with Dr. Adutwum's downside before we go to Dr. Prempeh.
I mean, see, the more recent evidence of implementation of the free SHS and the difficulties that he has had is a blot on Dr. Adutwum because he's the one in now. Let's not quibble fair. So biggest policy, free SHS. Its difficulties currently are a blot on his track record as we speak. So that's where the difficulty is. Again, to convince people that can move beyond this and implement it better will also be, when he's currently in charge of it, will be something that he will struggle with. Secondly, Adutwum does not appear to have a lot more party grassroots support like Matthew Prempeh has currently, which is going to be a defect. Adutwum does not also appear to have the blessing of party structures. I'm talking about headquarters, the Herin and Abuaches, the general secretaries of the party, and the people who appear to be clearly having a favorite. They are not necessarily Adutwum's person.
Yeah.
So that is also one difficulty that's going to come up here. The other one is when it comes to boot for boot politics, Adutwum does not appear to be the guy for the job.
I'll add one. He doesn't know how to promote himself. I think that's a big
It appears
disadvantage.
so,
Yeah,
yes.
he's not as good at promoting himself as others are, right? I mean, he takes trips to very important places and gives these great speeches, and we never hear of them.
That's true.
Until you actually meet with him, you won't know half of the amazing things that he is supposed to have done in his...
Or even what the ministry is doing.
Indeed. So, no, he's not been promoting himself very well. Dr. Popu Prempeh, the negatives quickly.
No, see, Napo is, whether perceived or real, seen as problematic. And when it comes to speeches, when it comes to his outlook, when it comes to the way he engages the people, people have more negative experiences of Napo than positive. I will not dismiss the fact. I've heard people who are saying, listen, you need to get close to the man and you'd love him for it. That is what they say. But what Napo has portrayed to a greater population of this country is somebody who appears to be arrogant, who appears to be nonchalant, somebody who believes that brute force or something of that kind in politics, somebody who does not think that you should engage more when you want solutions out of people, somebody who's not willing to listen and take from others. That is the difficulty with the general Napo candidates. People do not say he's incompetent. They say that he doesn't appear to be having the things that will make politicians endear themselves to people as well as he's supposed to do.
I personally, but my personal view, I think he's rude, thoughtless, and cannot read the room.
Okay.
I think that his communication style is very, very poor. It repels, it doesn't attract. On many occasions when he's had to speak to the Ghanaian people, he has done so with such a disdain and condescension that honestly, I don't know how he intends to win people
and
over.
this time from his education time
Yeah,
through
yeah,
to
yeah,
this
yeah.
time
It's
that he's
terrible.
supposed to be in
Terrible.
energy anyway.
Can you imagine if they win and he becomes the vice president? Vice president to Dr. Bawumia. Will we not end up with another Rollins Akar situation? I mean, no, let's ask the question. Okay, well, I mean, let's not get into that's my view.
yeah.
That's my view. Let's hear your view. Okay, Joseph is in Tema. Joseph, who and why?
Yeah, I'm here once again.
Who and why?
For me, I think Dr. Adutwum has to be chosen ahead of Poku Prempeh. One, I'm talking about humility. I'm talking about personality. Though the man is not perfect, I have issues with both of them. But if you look at Poku Prempeh, the way he's handling the ECG issue is not the best. And even at a point in time, coming out that create your own doom for a timetable, which was an insult to the public.
Thank you for that, Joseph. Ken is in East Legon. Ken,
Good morning, Kojo.
good morning. 30
I hope
seconds.
you're all good.
We are fantastic.
Yes, I think I would prefer Adutwum because I think he has more of a human face and is able to listen. But in any case, they are going into opposition, so it doesn't really matter. Thank you.
Thank you for calling us, Ken. Oh dear. All right, Mashood is in Kanda. Hi, Mashood. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
30 seconds,
I
please.
beg, none of them can beat the running mate to NDC. Even though Dr. Adutwum is better than Napo. Ghanaians don't like any arrogant to be, excuse me to say my language, but Ghanaians doesn't like any arrogant to read them. So if they want, they better take Adutwum. But that will not mean anything at all because MPP will lose this year's election.
Okay. Thank you, Mashood. Let's talk to Auntie Ya in Odoko, our very own Auntie Ya. Good morning.
Kojo, good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Auntie Ya. 30 seconds.
Okay, I'll go for Prempeh, Dr. Prempeh. Because he's buga buga. As for him, even what do I call it? Their members will not survive him. Hey, it will be doomsday for the party.
Auntie, you are coming to laugh at somebody. that was the very funny auntie out there. Mauli is in Ejisu. Hi, Mauli. Good morning.
Good morning, Gojo. How?
Small. Charlie, 30 seconds.
I think the Minister for Education will do because Napo he speaks strategies too much.
Is that so?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mauli from Ejisu. Ken is in Akwete, man. Hi, Ken. Good morning.
Hi, Kojo. Kojo, good morning.
Good morning to you, my boss.
Oh, my one and only one listener every day. Kojo, you make my day every day. You make my day since 1995.
Wow. You have 10 seconds left, too.
My boss.
Uh-huh.
None of them suit to this nation. Don't want them anymore.
Wow. All right, thank you, Ken. So, which of the two? Keita is in Peduase. Keita, good morning.
Good morning.
Mm-hmm. Which of the two?
I think Dr. Yao Ose Adutwum is head and shoulders above Napo in terms of humility, in terms of personality, and even vision and innovation. You can look at what he has done within the educational sector. So it tells you, whilst Dr. Yao Ose Adutwum is an embodiment of innovation and vision within the educational sector, you have somebody like Napo who has failed to even manage what he has, that stable supply of power from the people he took over from.
Your time, I'm afraid, is up. But thank you for sharing your thoughts. Let's talk to Emmanuel in Akropong. Hi, Emmanuel. Good morning.
Good morning, boss. How are things?
We're managing, my boss.
We thank God.
30 seconds.
Yes, after third counting. I will go for Dr. Opoku Prempeh. I'm going for him because I think he can do the work and do it well. We are getting into an era that we need people with this booga force to push things through. So I think he can do it.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Emmanuel. Daniel is in Ablekuma. Hi, Daniel. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Master Kudu.
Yes, sir.
How are you, sir?
We are managing, my boss. So, 30 seconds.
Fantastic job.
We thank God. 30 seconds.
Yeah, I want to let you know that we don't have light. For 3 or 4 days now, we are in darkness. So please do the job for us. I'm trying to tell you that the two of the running mates for MPP, they are not qualified. They should be run out. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, we have time for one more call. Call is in Sunyani. Hi, Call. Good morning.
Hi, Kojo. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. So, which of them? 30 seconds.
I'm going for my Opoku Prempeh. And do you know something? Napo, comparing it to Dr. Adutwum. Dr. Adutwum is a very timid person. You know, from his personality, he looks timid. And Napo is those kind of guys who have those kind of aggressive attitudes. So I think in terms of management, Napo can handle Ghanaians better more.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. And it would seem that out of the 10 callers, 2 have endorsed Napo, and the rest say it's Dr. Yao Adutwum. That's an interesting outcome. It seems to reflect what we have on Twitter, where at the end of our poll, Dr. Yao Adutwum is leading with 63% to the 37% from Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh. 619 votes were counted on that one. Listen, thank you all so much for listening to our show, for joining us on it. It's been interesting, hasn't it, Ray?
It's been exciting. My only issue is that when your opponent likes somebody else, sometimes it will be problematic. But generally, you know, I think that, well, it's pretty obvious.
Goodness. Yeah.
Who, if people were allowed to choose, they would most likely choose.
Indeed,
anyway.
Indeed. Yeah, I think the party should be
Vox
interested.
Populaire,
yes.
Is Vox there.
Indeed.
Voice of the people.
Is the voice of God. So people in the party should be very interested in how this conversation went.